Hello once again all, Keta Kosman, publisher of Madison's Lumber Reporter, your favorite source for everything sawmill, lumber price, and lumber market. Here today to give you some of the background data that I follow and put on my website to show the fundamentals of some of the reasons lumber prices are high right now, explaining the market. It's really a supply chain situation. And so let's just go to the graphs right away because I kind of need you to be looking at it while I'm explaining it to you. So for North America softwood lumber production, this data comes out of the Western Wood Products Association in Portland, Oregon, WWPA.org. U.S. production in February was down 4.4% compared to 1 year ago. Canada production was up 5% compared to February of 2020. If you take BC alone, production was up 6.5%. Don't forget, as I've said before, of Canadian lumber production, fully 50% of Canadian lumber production is done in British Columbia. Okay, I'll explain next what is capacity utilization, but for now, just looking at the graph, U.S. sawmill production as a percent of practical capacity in February of 2021 was flat compared to the same month 1 year ago at 87%, while Canadian sawmill capacity utilization rates in February of this year was up to 84% compared to 1 year ago when it was an abysmal 76%. Okay, so I'm just going to explain this one really quick. Production volume is easy to understand. It's a measurement of how much was made. Capacity utilization rates, a little bit confusing, but once you know what it is, it's really obvious as well. So imagine if there was a factory or a facility that had a maximum production, like 100%. So nothing ever runs at 100%. It's impossible. There's always constraints of some kind, material input, staff, energy, nighttime, whatever. And so the sawmills, the high-speed, more modern Canadian sawmills in British Columbia, when they were built just around the early and the mid-2000s, were optimized to run at 95%. So what 95% means in a British Columbia sawmill is 3 lines, all 3 lines, running 3 shifts, which means 24 hours a day. Between the time when those mills were started and built and then completed, U.S. housing was not doing so well, and literally, basically, none of them ever ran 95%. None of them ever ran 3 lines, 3 shifts. And when things really got bad, 2008, 2010, they ran 1 line, 1 shift. Okay, so comparing to optimal or maximum 95%, the utilization rates were low. So in Eastern Canada and the U.S. South, where there's smaller, older, family-owned sawmills, maybe haven't been invested in for a couple of decades, the maximum utilization rate is lower. So normal, like normal good, for average U.S. Sawmill capacity is, somewhere around 80%. And normal for Canada, normal good is 90%. And so these graphs are showing you what a huge drop occurred a couple of times last year in Canada, and that's reasons of reacting to the need for social distancing, initially the lockdown, and then putting in the distancing requirements for safety regulations that came out of Canada. Some of that was done in some of the U.S. states as well, but not to such a degree. So that's why the U.S. capacity didn't drop by as much, but both are down. And so let's move on to the next thing, railcar loadings. So exciting. So the data that comes out of the American Association of Railroads forest products, this is lumber, logs, and paper. So keep that in mind. And they don't always print the numbers for the forest products. So what we have in the latest update is total combined U.S. rail traffic for the first 20 weeks of this year was 10,242,390 combined. This is up 13% from the same time last year. Last year at this time there was lockdown and requirements for safety, which impacted the railways significantly. Now this is Canada. Again, forest products. There are not really Canadian logs being transported in the US because Canada has a moratorium on log export. So you can more likely have this data showing lumber and paper. So Canadian cumulative volume on the railroads was 3,035,554, which is up, again, a nice amount, 8.5% up compared to 1 year ago. Okay, this is an excellent data set that comes out of Yardeni, showing lumber and wood products, which is the red line in 1,000 units, and against housing starts, the blue line, again, 1,000 units. This is similar to my lumber price versus housing starts data that I show you, those three main dimensional lumber prices. So it really gives a good idea of the relationship between the end user consumption of lumber, how is that doing, compared to how much volume is actually moving on the railways. Okay, so now isn't that interesting? And doesn't it tell you something? This is the actual data, and it bears out what we were saying, you know, back in February or back in April about lumber prices and the lumber market. I try not to respond too much to people who just blatantly come on to my YouTube or my Twitter, you know, and they're like, oh, this is gouging. I don't know if they actually read what I say, listen to the videos, or just feel like saying what they want to say. Somebody early, one of my first videos said, who pays you? I pay me. You know, my subscribers are the sawmills, the industry, the lumber buyers, the wholesalers, the retailers, the home builders, governments, universities, banks, analysts, Canada, US, Japan, Europe. These people would not pay $989 a year and renew every year to get my data on Friday if it wasn't accurate. So the lumber production and the sawmill capacity utilization rates, you can see how it went up and down. The railcar loadings, you can see how it went up and down, took a real hit in February of this year. The Yardeni one is actually very excellent graph where I put my lumber prices against US housing starts. They're putting wood products, railcar loadings against housing starts. You can really see that it is driven by a fundamental demand of real market conditions that has been terrible, and very low lumber prices and very low lumber sales in the past, and is now great. You know, not that good lumber sales just yet, but prices are really high, and the housing, like I said in my last video, showing no signs of stopping. So we're at the end of May, and there's quite a bit of time in the summer left. Lots that can happen, you know. Could be wildfires. Hopefully not. We did have a rather mild winter, but it does come down to snowpack. A lot of the timber harvesting is done in the higher elevations, and if there was not a lot of snowpack, it's dry, and that's why we had the fires last year. So hoping that it's a better season for timber supply this year, and gonna see as the months go on what's happening with housing, and the sawmills are just doing what they can in between those two to keep up. So check again and click the link on my caption to subscribe, check my website, and we'll be back soon with more data.